Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the Russia attacks on Ukraine. Now, first off, I want to offer my condolences and prayers to Ukraine, the people in Ukraine, and the families and close friends of people that have been lost um, due to this hellacious act and actions by Russia. I mean, this is just devastating. It's terrible. I don't know how many people are going to wind up perishing as a result of this, and I hope that this does end sooner than later. And I was looking a little bit at Russia's chart, and the B rating by Astro.com, just so you know, it had Mars in Pisces conjunct Uranus, so right there that indicates unpredictable warfare attacks. And the fact that it's in Pisces could be ones that are very confusing and confounding and people probably are not understanding really clearly why they did this. I'm sure there's information out there and you can confer this online on the internet. But I need a reason. I want to look at that later and find out what actually incited this attack. But again, I hope Ukraine. I hope as many people as possible get out of there, and whatever they have to do to get out unscathed, and so could have less casualties. As a result of this, Russia has apparently bombarded Ukraine with missiles, and they launched at least 160 missiles, my understanding, over at Ukraine. And I'm looking at chart and looking at Ukraine's chart right now, and they're having and there's a number of transits in the first house. Astrology, first house is the physical body. This is the face. This is where people can. It's about where you can really be physically, collectively heard, I would say, as a country. In transit, Mars in Capricorn, which is associated with the government, is in the first house. Pluto, which is connected with nuclear weapons, and Pluto being in Capricorn, transit Pluto in Capricorn is in their first house as well. It's also making a loose conjunction to Ukraine's natal Saturn and Aquarius. There has been some threat of Russia uh, as far as their hurting negatively impacting the cyber security of Ukraine. And the thing about it is when you have transit Pluto closing in on one's natal Saturn, that could manifest in gaining power over a government. And the fact it's in Aquarius, it could be over something cyber related, over their internet, their computer systems there. And what's interesting too is that Ukraine has their moon in Aquarius, so that shows where a lot of they have more security. They may pride themselves on more security with the internet, with computers, cybersecurity more so than most countries on average, and it falls in the first house. Um, so it may even make it more prominent, I would say. And the thing about this too, it's also they have Ukraine has Jupiter, which rules foreign countries. It's opposing that moon, and Jupiter being in Leo, these could be countries that just very that are dominant, that might try to dominate Ukraine, because Jupiter is also their natal Jupiter in Leo is in the seventh house of open adversaries as well. And in this case, Russia is obviously adversarial. And the thing is, too, looking at this as well, I'm looking at Ukraine's natal chart, and they have fixed T-square, which includes the moon in Aquarius, and I talked about cyber security before. Moon is about security. Aquarius is connected with computers, things that are cyber, and Mercury is involved, Jupiter is involved as well. And Jupiter again is connected with foreign countries, and ones being in Leo, ones that could be arrogant, bombastic, domineering in the seventh house of open adversaries. And the other point of it is looking at this is the midheaven, in Scorpio, and that's about power and control, trying to have a reputation for that, I would say. And the thing about this is, and also Pluto is in that mix, but it may be loosely squared the Moon and Jupiter. I have to go down and scroll their chart. Bear with me a moment, people. Let's see. It looks like it's still within. Pluto does appear to make the square falls within those parameters. It appears um, of a T-square. The Moon is at 22. Aquarius, yeah, this is something where when I'm looking at this as well, and Pluto is connected with things that are nuclear, of course, and Scorpio is sign of destruction. So this shows a lot of tension having this in that kind of the fixed T-square configuration. Now, the thing is, as many of you may know, when you have a transit that opposes the focal point of a T-square configuration, often significant things can transpire at that time. And the thing about this is there's going to be on April 30th, 2022, we're going to have a solar eclipse in Taurus. And at the time of the solar eclipse, okay, the sun, transit sun in Taurus won't be conjoining the fourth house cusp of Ukraine, but at the time the North Node will not be far from it. And the North Node is about the future, and it's about peace and tranquility. The fourth house is connected with our security and our home. So I'm hoping by then, maybe this war, may come to an end. I believe President Biden of the United States had stated something about that Russia was going to be facing some repercussions as a result of this, and I don't know what that really means. I didn't research that to see, to elaborate on what try to figure out. To expound on what he stated, if he means is there going to be volatile actions by the U.S. toward Russia, or is it just going to be more sanctions? Is there going to be some more limitations on the military nuclear weapons of Russia? And these are things that I'm going to be looking at later, but I don't really know. To be honest, I don't know that at this point in time. And the thing is, I do hope that there's some, and as many do hope there's some peaceful reconciliation on this much sooner than later. And another thing, when I look at the synastry that goes on that's between Russia, astrological synastry between Russia and Ukraine, what I notice is interesting is that based on it's a B rating that Astro.com has for the Russia chart, and Russia's ascendant is at 0 degrees Virgo, and interestingly enough, the Ukraine sun is at 0 degrees Virgo. Now, in astrology, the sun is about one's identity, and what this tells me, when you have an aspect like this, that could be indicative of a country trying to sabotage the identity of another. The ascendant is the mask, the projection of self, what we allow others to see. It's what we're trying to show others. It can have a connection, it has a connection in astrology in an individual chart with the physical body, but it's also, when you're talking about the country, collectively, it's the people, the physical bodies of the people, I would say. And what's interesting is that they want to make their face, which is their face of the country, they want it to become Ukraine's. And again, the ascendant of Russia, based on it's the B rating chart, makes a very tight conjunction to the sun in Virgo, to the natal sun in Virgo of Ukraine, and the sun again is connected with identity. Another thing that's interesting, that the sun, in Virgo, energy, of course, is very scrupulous, meticulous, ethical, and proper. And the thing about it is the fact that if this chart is accurate, the B rating chart that Astro.com has for Russia, This would be like more of like a facade of Russia, projecting very scrupulous qualities and being appearing to be ethical, appearing to be proper. And remember, the ascendant is the facade, it's the projection of self, the outer demeanor. That is what Russia is, maybe projecting outwardly, but they're showing at this time that they are not, you know, maybe it's kind of like not what you see, but perhaps Ukraine with their sun conjunct the Russia's ascendant, they were actually able to see, perhaps through the facade. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, I don't know if I have too much more to say regarding this. It's just, again, this is just a terrible, um, devastating thing that has transpired. And the thing about this too is another transit I wanted to speak of regarding what Ukraine's going to experience in relatively near future is that the transit of the South Node in Scorpio will be making a what it's going to do is it's going to conjoin the natal Pluto, and when you have transits of the South Node conjunction, it can reflect what one is going away from, being less of. And what it tells me is that Ukraine may be stripped of their power and connection. Pluto is nuclear, and it may have something to do with, maybe there's some, I would say it's more about just general power in general that may be stripped, or something happens, or maybe they, whatever nuclear weapons they may have produced, I don't know if they have any. Maybe for whatever reason they begin to dissipate at this time, or they just don't. They run out. Maybe the weapons are somehow extinguished for whatever reason due to lack of supply. But I really don't hope that this carries on, really for a prolonged time. We just don't need, all this, this mass destruction. And I could only imagine the terror and the state of fright, a state of trepidation that Ukraine could be going through. And I was a little bit disconsolate earlier. I still am now regarding this. And if I have any people out there that are in, the Ukraine right now, if there's any of my followers or YouTube subscribers, people on Facebook that I know that see this, again, I do want to offer my prayers at this time to you. And my heart goes out to the country there, and I do hope that there is, again, some reconciliation, or something like that. There's a resolution that comes much sooner than later. It's just hard for me to see how a country can be that ruthless, and sending all these missiles over to another country, and the attack doesn't even seem warranted. I don't, there's got to be more to this than meets the eye. Again, Russia does have their natal Mars in confounding Pisces, and it makes the attack look very nebulous and unclear. Also, the fact that Russia's Mars and Uranus conjoin, again, according to that, what I believe is that B rating chart on Astro.com, is that this is where they may be, could be an indicator of attacks on cyber attacks, making cyber attacks, again, being in Pisces, that are on maybe confounding and confusing, very nebulous and unclear at this time. And they do have it in the 7th house of open adversaries. And this is just something where apparently this was imminent, this battle, because recently transit Mars had made a conjunction to the North Node of Ukraine. And when the North Node is involved in transit, it can be associated with issues that one may have to address and confront. Mars is about battle and warfare, Of course, Capricorn is connected with government, but it's also premeditation and plan. This was something that was strategized and planned out very well, I'm sure. And it's also the fact that it's in Capricorn tells me that it's cold, callous, and it's ruthless. It's undemonstrative energy. This is something that was not where there was really lack of emotion on this. And what's terrible about this, and this is not, I don't believe this is justified at all, and also the fact that there's just all the innocent denizens of the country, Ukraine. There's going to be children, I'm sure, that may have died already, and these innocent people are just, being annihilated. And to me, it just seems like it's so senseless. I mean, what are we coming to now in this world? I just hope that this isn't a precursor for a World War III, and that this is going to escalate to a point where you're going to have other countries really strongly figuring prominently, in this, and that it becomes, I hope it doesn't become like a war to end all wars, apocalyptic. I mean, I'm looking at a very worst case scenario, of course, and I don't want to say anything to scare people, but at the same time, we do have to look at that, as a possibility. It's not something that we can just look at and scoff at. Oh, this is going to be okay. This will blow over in a couple days or so, because this is something that's very serious. 106, I think, maybe over 160 missiles were fired already, and we're just, in the first day. What is going to happen? How many people are going to perish? And I do hope, that you get as many people out as possible of Ukraine. And I'm just, it's something where you just get tired of all this madness in the world. And again, my prayers do go out to the people in Ukraine, and the ones that have lost others as a result of this madness. Especially, heart goes out to the close friends and family of those people. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.